Today is a good day. You know why? Because we're putting this big badass motor in this car. It's been a long time waiting. But before we go ahead and do it, let's cover some things. Okay, first off, this Cutlass, when it was brand new from the factory, came with a 350 Olds engine, along with a matching turbo 350 transmission. The motor here is a Chevy. Oh, by the way, that white car's not mine. It's a nice car, but I don't like BMWs. I don't like German cars. Anyways, back on this frame. So, to put this Chevy engine in this chassis, I had to remove and replace these frame mounts. These here are from a Chevelle. And the original mounts, so you can kind of see the holes. Those were originally for the Olds engine, which I've unbolted, but luckily GM has left us a blessing. They've got this chassis they've got has various bolt holes, so you can put on mounts for a Oldsmobile, a Chevy, a Pontiac, whatever. So you got to have those mounts in the frame and the corresponding engine mounts on the engine. So this came as a set, and that allows me to bolt this thing in there. The next thing is the transmission. This is a Chevrolet bolt pattern transmission. The original one was the Old, which are referred to as the Buick Olds Pontiac. It's different. Also, to the clever eye, look at that torque converter. That's a TCI 3500 RPM stall torque converter. That'll make this thing run like a raped ape. All right, let's proceed. Now, something else to consider. Before I began doing this, this is a factory AC car, and this box had a great big hole in the side. Somebody smashed it. So I want to have AC in this car. I live in Phoenix. It gets goddamn hot. In fact, the forecast calls for 120 degrees on Tuesday. So to me, AC is important. So with the motor out, you have a lot of space. So I pulled this box out and refreshed it. That requires pulling this damn fender off, pain in the ass, and then there's some bolts that are behind that firewall you gotta take out. So I pulled this whole damn air box off, replaced the heater core, and I washed it really good to clean it out, and put it back on there. I covered it in clear coat, looks real nice. So anyways, you wanna fix this thing with the engine out. Anyways, that's all done. The mounts are in. I can now drop this thing in there. Also, this engine plate, you're gonna think, hey Eric, this is on backwards. Well, it's not, because with my engine hoist, the hook comes in kind of like this, and I can't turn it to match. So with this way, it'll work with my hoist. But usually, you're right, this is going to be turned 90 degrees. So you have various hook angles, but for mine, that's just fine. Well, so far so good. I had to extend that boom out another foot to get clearance, but it looks as if I can put this thing in without pulling the hood off. Which is kind of nice, because my friend Jeff is on some vacation scuba diving. He's not around. Monty, he's probably in the house or something. But anyways, this might be a one-man job. Yeah, sure, shit. It's gonna fit. Look at that. I got about 1 inch right there. This guy is just gonna make it, so I can actually put this thing in with the hood still in. Okay, it's looking pretty damn good. So at this point, you guys who are gonna install headers, like me, may want to take a little break here and go dig them out, because at this point I could lay them in here and wire them to the side and keep dropping this thing down. And plus, these plugs, they gotta come out. Otherwise, I'm gonna snap them all off. I don't want that. So, let's get that done next. Okay, one more thing I forgot to mention. Notice that transmission. Look how it's angled. There's no way in hell this motor will match that trans and just slip in place. So I gotta jack that thing up and level it so that this thing will mate perfectly. Okay, getting underneath my car, you will notice I have a transmission jack supporting my transmission. And these things here, they're pretty cheap. It's from Harbor Freight, and it makes this job go hell of a lot better. Okay, here is another shot of this transmission jack, and basically I can use this ratchet to, if I crank on it, I can raise or lower this transmission to get the right height that I want. So it's kind of nice. You'll also note that I'm laying on a nice cardboard mat because I'm kind of getting old now and I like things soft. But tell you what, when I was a kid, I paid my dues. I worked on cars in my dad's pole barn that had a dirt floor with hay and rocks and all kinds of crap. I lost so many goddamn bolts. Ridiculous. You lose tools, wrenches in the hay. I had to convert my Camaro to a 4-speed because the trans went bad. This is back in high school. I had no money. The trans went bad, so I had a parts car with a 4-speed. So I had to convert my Camaro to a 4-speed stick in the middle of winter in a goddamn snowbank. So I've paid my dues. I have earned this nice, smooth cement garage floor. Okay, I'm done bitching now. Anyways, the headers. Notice how I have them in place and I've got them wired up to keep them out of the way so I can drop in the engine. Here's this side. Over here, some more wires. Got one right there. One to the master brake cylinder. So this way I can drop it in and keep these things out of the way and keep them looking kind of nice. So what is wrong with this picture? When you're putting this thing in, don't forget to pull the covers off your exhaust ports. I just noticed that and began pulling off this tape. You might ask, why isn't this thing going to start? Well, because you got tape on the exhaust ports. There we go. This thing's almost in place. You can see how I've got the dowel pin of the engine resting in the transmission bell housing. Looks like we're home free. Well, it's a good thing that the GMA body has lots of engine bay room, and it's lucky that I'm also a skinny guy because I'm able to get inside the engine compartment and reach in back to put these back bell housing bolts in. I got 2 in the bottom end and the top 4 are left. So I'm going to snug them all up and that part's done. Bell housing bolts are now in. They've all been torqued to about 35 foot-pounds. Now I'm going to get these headers bolted in loosely. I'm going to put some bolts into the motor mounts and then bolt up the torque converter to flex plate. So that's next. Okay, putting on headers with one person is really a pain in the ass. So these guys, I did it like this. I found that if I grab the header back here and hold it up, it's almost a balance point. And you're able to support it kind of close where it belongs and then work on this front bolt. Once that guy is started, you can then go back over here and pivot this thing to get this back bolt in place, and then you got it licked. Okay, I just put these motor mount bolts in, and I thought they were originally a 7/16 diameter bolt. I've had a few Chevelles in the past, and anyways, they wouldn't fit, you know, so these mounts are obviously made overseas, and I wasn't going to hammer in that bigger bolt, so I used a 3/8 grade 8 with a lock nut on the other side. So yeah, I guess these foreign parts, sometimes they fit and sometimes they don't, but in this case I made it work. These are the bolts that I bought that couple the flex plate to the torque converter. And since I can buy these bolts by the pound, Fairly good price. I always buy grade 8. You can put some torque to them. It's not going to strip out. And also, you want to use a little blue Loctite. Put a few drops on the threads, and that'll make sure it doesn't walk out on you. Okay, I got one in. It's finger loose. But with this, you do not want to torque it down until you get the other 2 bolts in there. Otherwise, it's not going to line up. The next thing is, well, with this engine, I just can't grab this flex plate and spin it. It's got a lot of compression, the rings are in, all that stuff, so it turns pretty hard. So I'm going to show you a trick. Right here it is. I left this thing on. Whenever I adjust the valves or degree a camshaft, I put this thing on the harmonic balancer. So I kept it on. So I can put a 1/2-inch breaker bar right in here, and I can turn this thing pretty easy. Well, I think I just screwed myself over. I was putting the other bolts in, and I was kind of noticing when I put them in finger tight, there was a gap between the torque converter mounting tab and the flex plate. It's probably about, I don't know, 3/16 of an inch or something. And this thing ought to be sitting on there flush. So I can move it here, and I just realized that this motor I bought for my buddy, he originally had this thing, he had a 5-speed stick behind it. And I didn't pop out that goddamn pilot bushing. So I bet that pilot bushing is in the back of the crankshaft, hitting the end of this torque converter's got a locating plug. It's hitting that. So I gotta pull this goddamn transmission out and pull out that frickin' goddamn pilot bushing. Son of a bitch.